All right, awesome. So, welcome to Run Wild with us. You know what? You can ask us anything. I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder, executive editor, CEO, I don't know, whatever else you want to put after my name, of Running Wild. And I am here with one of our phantasmagorical editors, Cecilia Kennedy. And we're typically here with at least two more of our guys, Peter Wright and Ben White, who I'm sure will join us quite shortly. And the purpose of this is that if you are curious about anything around, it could be publishing, it could be writing, it could be, how do indie publishers make their decisions? It could be, why is your hair red? It could be, I don't care. Like whatever you want is all fine. And what we do is, all I do is I ask that you put your questions into the comments section of whatever venue you're watching us. Typically that's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And what I do is I'll repeat whatever the question is, and then we basically all take turns in responding to that question. And of course, just as I say this, boom, Ben
Hey,
shows
Ben.
up.
Yeah, I heard you had a question.
Not quite yet. Not quite yet. So I just figured we could all just like update, or if there are any questions that we may have had or that you may have seen since our last go round, I thought we could just like, take our opportunities to respond to them. So I don't know. Have you heard anything, Ben? Have you heard anything, Cecilia?
In terms of questions from authors from Running Wild Press, or just in general?
In general's fine. Yeah.
Well, I had a question. Well, actually, I have some friends of mine were showing me examples of unhinged dedications, and the headline was "Can a dedication sell a book?" Probably not, because most people aren't looking at a dedication when they open up a book, but it can be fun to really think about those dedications. So I found this blog site. I think I can send you the link, Lisa. I'll try to do that now because I can't send it through. I'll send it through Running Wild Press, and then it should show up on your end. So it's from RIZE, and they have like 30 great book dedications. Apparently there's one by E.E. Cummings, the No Thanks to Publishers. So it's the 1935 poetry collection.
Oh my.
It's an anti-dedication to all the people that rejected him, that rejected E.E. Cummings.
So, oh boy. Well,
Derek Landy's note to his editor. This book is dedicated, let's see here. This book is dedicated with great reluctance, to my editor, Nick Lake, because he is forcing me to. And then there's like all kinds of things of how his editor's going to mark this all up. So that's kind of funny. There's a note to Dad, Kira Cass. Has a young adult novel, The Selection, wrote, "Hi Dad, waves." So that's a cute dedication. I like that.
That's cute.
So there's all kinds of stuff. So just things to think about when you do your dedication, I guess, unless there's somebody, if you don't have anybody specific to dedicate to, there are some examples and it might be a selling point at some point.
Yeah. And by the way, I put it in the chat, so anyone who's watching,
there it is.
You can just go ahead and you can look at the RIZE list.
Yeah, at your leisure.
At your leisure, yeah. And actually, it's a lot of fun to look at people's dedications and kind of see, like, because there is such a wide range. I'm sure E.E. Cummings did not do that. Thanks a lot for completely changing everything I did. Until he was quite well known. This was
somebody else. This was somebody, Derek Landy. It's for a kids fantasy series, and it's kind of tongue in cheek. So
I see. Got it. All right, yeah, that's not as bad.
Yeah. But it is fun to see, like, because I'm, an editor and writer as well. I love to go through every part of the book. I read the acknowledgments, I read the dedication, I read the prologue, I read everything, because it helps give me a sense of the process and what was the intention behind the book and what went into it. So, yeah.
Cool.
You want to hear a dedication out of this book?
Oh,
Sure.
good Lord. Sure. Do it.
It's dedicated to the people in Wayne County, Kentucky, especially those who have never shot and killed anyone in my family.
Now, is there an implication in that? I was going to say.
People in Wayne County, Kentucky will know.
Oh my. Okay. So now, Cecilia, now you have the bar set.
I know.
Your
Yeah.
upcoming book as
For my
to-
book that's coming up. Yeah. I don't know what
Yeah.
the dedication is going to be. Well, I have an idea, but yeah, I don't know.
Oh my goodness, that is so funny. Well, I actually,
we had the
yeah, go
same
ahead.
kind of conversation about prologues,
Mhm.
and are they? Well, he touched on it at the acquisition meeting, but are they really necessary? And a novel I'm working on now has a prologue, but I suggested taking it out or maybe making it the back cover copy and putting it there to draw people into the book instead of being in the book and then reading the prologue. That is really it's flashing forward to almost the end of the book, and it doesn't need to in this case. But I'm sure some prologues or prefaces have a purpose. I just don't know what they are.
Would it be possible to roll it into the book towards the end, or is it more of a
Actually, the scene itself is in the book, just with different details. It's not as detailed as the prologue is, but the scene itself is there.
Oh, interesting.
And the action is there.
I had a prologue in mine, and Amy was like, do you want to have a prologue? Most people, I was like, yeah, I heard that advice. Most people don't want it. So I changed it. I incorporated it into, I just made it, what it is basically it just needed a heading other than prologue. It was the start of the book. So,
Right.
and then I changed it slightly so that I would have more sections like that. I don't want to give too much away. So I have more like sections like it throughout. So it's a running motif now instead of just a prologue. It's a part of the structure.
Peter, what do you think?
I mean, I think that if you need a prologue, you haven't told your story well enough. I mean, because all the details that are in the prologue, like, to backtrack a little bit, like Ben was saying, I mean, you want the reader grabber to be on the back cover so they pick it up and go, oh, I want to read this. But the prologue details could be in the story as part of the tale, as part of the narrative, so that the reader gets them as they go along. It's not a teaser; it's more of a the hook within the story. Go forward. That's kind of how I feel about it. I think prologues are kind of cheating. A mild version of cheating in this day and age, but still,
I really think it's dependent on, I think a lot of times people will write a prologue or an epilogue without really understanding what the purpose is of it. They just kind of feel like, well, I saw it done somewhere else, so I'm gonna do it, Or to Peter, I think your point, a lot of times, especially a prologue, it's like what did I call it last time? Like a brain puke. Like you just puke words out onto the page, and you're like, boom, look, a novel, right? Or boom, look, a memoir. And without actually actively thinking about, like, well, what am I doing and why am I doing it? And, is this actually fulfilling the purpose that I think it is?
right.
And I think that's that's the key. I mean, I was on some panel recently, and my that they asked me, like, how do you make decisions, blah blah blah, and I was like, I think the one big feedback I have for any author, actually this came up during acquisition, is think about your why. Like, why is this here? Make sure that everything within the work, whether it's a short story or a novel or a memoir or a novella or a biography or whatever, there's a purpose for it being within that narrative. Because if not, you're probably going to lose your reader, and I'm sure that's not what the intent is.
Right.
I'm almost positive. So, and I think to Ben's point, a lot of times when someone writes a prologue or even an epilogue, it's not really a prologue. It's not really an epilogue. It's actually chapter 1.
Right.
Or
that's
like,
what it was for me.
Yeah. Or it's
Yeah.
like the background story. It's the background to the narrative that you've already basically described within the story itself. So there's no real purpose
Right.
in having that prologue or in having that epilogue. So, and it's funny, like I obviously, we were talking about this last time, we all still read, obviously, right, outside of the works that we're working on. And I find myself like mentally editing the works. It's not that they're bad at all. It's just that, being more familiar now with like how larger houses handle getting a book to market, right? And the kind of pressure that those houses are under to get a book out within a specific period of time. It makes me a lot more aware of the fact that, sometimes, where something could actually be improved upon and really engage the reader more, shortcuts were made where, if it had come through Running Wild, we may have edited out certain sentences, or we may have said, hey, this needs to be expanded upon, or there's no point in this section, or what have you, to really make it be the best that it can be. So again, not that the work's bad. It's just one of those that's like, oh, you didn't need those last 2 lines, right? The chapter ended. Like the reader, if the reader's actively engaged, the chapter, they got it. You didn't need those reinforcing sentences, which that's actually something very, very common with authors, is that, you write the implied, and you didn't need to write the implied. If you engaged your reader, they got it, right? So, like someone describing someone as, Harry had silver hair and, slightly, like, wrinkled skin or something like that. You don't then have to say, and he's 65 years old. Yeah, fucking bite me. I got it, right? I got the description. I got he's not 18. We're good. We did not need to have that additional nail in the head. So we have a question. Do you read fiction or nonfiction?
I read a little bit of everything. Mostly I've been reading fiction lately. I just finished reading Jaws because I needed it for the manuscript that I'm working on. And it's really interesting when you're talking about things that you would edit. I feel like I would have edited that out. I would have, and like, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble saying this or not, but I like the movie better. I really did.
You're not the first author I've heard that, by the way.
Really likes the movie better. Yeah, some of the decisions that were made to have the characters go the way they did, and there are huge sections on the political side, of the town, which is interesting. But I'm like, where's the shark? So as a reader, I'm like, but yeah. So yeah,
Peter,
I do.
How about you? Oh, sorry.
No, so I do, like, whatever it is, I'm editing in my head. I can't help it.
So Peter, how about you? Do you read fiction, nonfiction?
Normally I read fiction. I stay away from nonfiction, but I picked up a nonfiction book couple weeks ago. It's actually Neil Peart, the Rush drummer who passed away
Oh,
years
wow.
ago. It's called Ghost Rider. Talks about his trip in Canada from his hometown up to Alaska, the Arctic Circle, and back again. So I'm not very far into it, but it's interesting. It's interesting in the fact that it's nonfiction and it's exactly how he experienced what he experienced.
Mhm.
And the reason why I grabbed it is because I admire his work. I'm not a musician, but I'm a motorcycle rider, and I've toured. I've got 38 states under my wheels, and so I wanted to read it for that. And
Mhm.
there's not enough of that in the story for my liking. I'd like a lot more about the riding itself, but
Mm.
it's interesting in his introspection. But for me, I'm very much a literary fiction reader. There's
Mhm.
got to be layers. There's got to be images. There's got to be character reasons for the plot to move forward to interest me, to really get me interested. I'm reading a fiction book right now. It's a thriller, a detective thriller, a FBI thriller. And it's absolutely awful. I mean, there's nothing in it that's interesting to me, and I'm reading it just to see what the other side thinks, why they find this interesting. So I'm trying to keep my horizons open, but I'm mostly a fiction reader. But right now I'm reading nonfiction.
How about you, Ben?
Sometimes I read stop signs.
Stop that.
Sometimes. No, it's a mix of
Mm.
the between the fiction and nonfiction, and the some memoirs, which would be they're supposed to be nonfiction, but
Yeah.
the but then like Gunter Grass's biography, Peeling the Onion. You find things out about the author that makes his work more interesting, and so there's a connection of okay, you kind of understand where he's coming from. A lot of poetry comes across as nonfiction, but it's good when when you can understand it, and it's not esoteric in nature. And I like the poems that stand in front of the tanks,
Standing from the
and
what?
the poems that stand in front of the tanks.
Ah.
And you get the picture of the Tiananmen Square picture of the guy standing in front of the tank. I think a poem should do that. And but it's a mix, and a lot of times I'll go back and read philosophy, and which I'm not sure that's fiction or nonfiction, but I got a major in it.
That's debatable. So
Yeah.
yeah. Now I read everything, and I see a lot of advantages to doing that. It enables you to actually also figure out like sorry, we're in the middle of a bunch of urgent stuff at work, so I had to respond to something. But I it's interesting. I met with a couple of our interns the other day who were reviewing our backlog of short stories and novellas, and one of our interns was commenting that some of the novellas it was just like dialogue, right? But then there was no. It didn't feel like there was any end to it. There wasn't an actual narrative arc, and so I was like, go back and read some plays, because what you're going to probably find is that, and we actually found this in the acquisition session. We had a few authors who submitted, novels and said, oh, well, I'm really a playwright, or I'm really a screenwriter.
Right.
And I realized this would be much better as a novel. And so, the entire piece it was basically, dialogue with a throw in here and there of environment description. And what's fascinating to me is that they didn't take the time, and this is, by the way, this is not a blanket statement. Does not mean that all playwrights do this, nor does this mean that all authors do this. But I have seen it quite a bit in my far too many years for me to own up that I've been at this time period. But that the frequency that individuals will say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna write a graphic novel, or I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna, take this piece that I wrote for a completely different format, and I'm gonna now make it into, a novel. But yet it's clear when you read the work, they never actually studied that craft. They never bothered to understand how how that's structured and what it entails, and they didn't actively think about, oh, so in a play, whereas the playwright is basically giving like a one line, New York City bar, or New York City, drag bar, and then, a very brief description of what the characters look like, and then dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. And if there's some type of significant movement, that's significant movement. And then, because it's a play,
Yeah.
right? Because the expectation is that the actors are going to bring forward different perspectives associated with the characters that they're performing. Well, what that actor is doing and the director is providing, as well as whoever it is that created that stage and created the, clothing associated with each of the characters, that's what has to be brought to the page when you're taking that play and making it into, or screenplay, and making it into a novel. So not taking the time to just really actively think about, well, how am I going to take this screenplay and make it so that it's actually engaging for whoever's reading it, or whoever's, engaging with this narrative. To me, it's a little sad, especially with this day and age where you can go online and look up narrative structure for almost any format today. I mean, there are tons of books out there for any kind of format that you want. So I think there's a huge advantage in reading across formats or forums, no matter no matter what it is, because it actually helps you be a more actively engaged in the piece and better understand the purpose of the different elements. So I also find it fascinating that, like, the National Book Award didn't used to have a graphic novel award, and now they do. But when you look at the graphic novels that win, it's not like Archie, right? This isn't, you're not going to get, like, Snoop. Huh? What's wrong with Archie? That was the only comic when I was a kid I was allowed to read, and I picked up like 2, and they had no narrative arc at all. It was just like, it was so boring. I like never picked it up again. But anyway, but what's fascinating is, like, the one that won more recently, Feeding the Ghosts. It's actually a memoir. It's just that she did it in a graphic novel format. So, I just think there's a lot of advantages to actually reading across all form, because you can learn so much from them and then leverage those learnings across the works. So we have a comment: ironic how dialogue is considered so prestigious in movies but taboo in books. Well, but it's also performing a different function when you look at it in movies versus books. And the dialogue that is effective in a movie is not going to be effective in a book, because, again, it's performing a different purpose. And if you actually read the screenplays for some of your favorite films, it's highly unlikely that it's what the authors are doing, or not authors, what the actors are doing is verbatim to what's in the actual play or in the actual screenplay. Because then they would not have a personal ownership for those characters, and then they would not be able to really kind of bring it to that depth to life, if that makes sense. So, see, this is what happens when you mention philosophy. I get all esoteric. So, go ahead, Ben.
The movies are going to fill in the description because it's visual. You see it, and so the dialogue is between the characters, but it's not that they're acting in front of a big white sheet. They're acting within a scene that you can see, and your mind picks up on it. So the dialogue is just how they're interacting, and including nonverbals even. And it's tough to get a nonverbal captured in a book and a description. Although you can do it, cross your arms and explain the nonverbals that are going on with meaning. But that's a skill and craft by itself.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, and to your point, having two characters in a novel who actually have physical contact, versus, they're sitting across from each other at a table and, arms crossed and refusing to actually engage other than, words. And if it's short, clipped dialogue where it's, it's like, yes, no, do it, no, you're not that being translated into a book. It's gonna be done quite differently than what's done in a screenplay to be effective. Yeah.
Well, also, dialogue in screenplays are meant to drive the plot forward and provide insight into the characters a little bit, and to give structure to the scene that the characters are in. Whereas dialogue in a book is meant to show, what's going on with characters to drive the plot forward, but also to show what's happening within the characters, but what they're saying versus what they're feeling, which is what the author could do with the backstory, with the paragraphs in between the dialogue. From my experience, authors that rely too much on dialogue, and I'll see pages of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages long, and just all dialogue, is that they're so involved they're so involved in what they're writing. They see the scene, and they're not sharing it with the reader. They're just blazing through it because they see where they are, they see what the characters are doing, and they're not putting it on the page for the reader to get that depth, to get that scenery, to get that full experience of the whole story that they're telling. They're too involved. They have to take a step back and go, okay, well, nobody sees what I'm seeing, so I have to add that in there. I have to paint the picture to put the scene in there, because they just skip right over it. I'm like, and I put this in almost every novel I've edited, is where are we? What are we seeing here? What's going on? What's happening? And by doing that, they can use those objects or what the characters see as insight into who the characters are as themselves. So if they see a mirror, what do they see looking back at them? If they see a black cat or white cat or whatever, how does that reflect upon them? Put those little teasers in there, or clues.
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions, by the way. Great commentary. This one I found interesting. We had one author who declined our offer for acquisition because he felt as though our acquisition letter or offer was too template, and he didn't feel as though he would get a personalized. He wouldn't get the proper attention that he felt as though he required. So I just said, okay, thanks, bye. Like, I mean, because I don't know how to respond to that other than, like, all right, well, clearly this isn't what you want, so all good.
See ya.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no harm, no foul. Out. Sorry, go ahead. No. Okay.
No. Well, I mean, I've had acceptance letters from magazines that are templated. Like we send out templates to our authors at Flash Fiction Magazine, but they still get, if they can pay for feedback, and even that's templated. But then the feedback that we give them is not, it's individualized. Right. But the first letter that they receive is the template. And then you get, your author, your editor, who gives you specific feedback just on your story. So we're not talking about things in general, like, okay, let's talk about dialogue. This is what dialogue should do in a novel. We're talking about your specific piece of work that you're doing. What would make it more effective from a reader's standpoint, where things might be lacking, where the thread of the story gets lost on the reader. So yeah, the initial push or the initial acceptance might be templated, but you're still going to get a human being who's going to help you with your work. If that's, what you cite. Now, a lot of literary magazines just give you the templated, we accept it, and then they don't do anything with it. They just publish it. Right. But in the template itself, it says you're going to get an editor, and you have to agree to have this editor do things to your manuscript, or at least ask questions about it. So, yeah.
So additional comment, people might paint different pictures when parts of the description are left blank or ambiguous rather. That's an exciting prospect. Agreed, but you still have to at least have some kind of baseline so that it serves the purpose of the story itself. So, minimally, you don't want to have, if this is a story about teenagers in love, you don't want to have the description so ambiguous that someone may walk away going, oh my God, they're talking about, child molestation, right? You need to minimally set it up so that, the reader, even, because I can guarantee, my version of a character may be completely different than someone else's, and that's okay. But we're both coming from at least the same point, baseline that is, again, serving the purpose of the story.
True. And something as simple to build on what you just said. I mean, the boy picked her up in his car and they drove to the party. Okay, so that's ambiguous. We don't know what car, we don't know what party or anything like that. So if you throw in there, he picked her up in his beater where the tailpipe was coat hangered to the frame. I mean, that tells you something about the character. They picked her up in his Mercedes and was just a little bit dirty because of the rain. That tells you something also. But you don't go overboard into over explaining that he's got his outfit is worth $400 kind of thing. Just laying the baseline and leaving the rest for the reader to imagine. But you're giving them a baseline. You're giving them something to key into the character.
Yeah, that's a good descriptive point of
exactly
what people wear and what people drive. That those are insights into the person, the character, the financial status, the concern for financial status, but there's an ambiguous part there with the reader as well. If I write about a military motor pool and the reader is a veteran, I don't have to explain too much, because they can be standing downtown and smell the diesel fuel off a city bus, and they're right back in the motor pool. They know the motor pool, and they know what it smells like, and they know what it looks like and feels like and what goes on there. But as an author, I have to know that maybe I don't want to be satisfied with just writing to veterans. I need to include the other readers who don't get that same feeling of the motor pool and the diesel smell and the dry sweep and everything that goes on there. So there's the author has to be ready to expand not just the explanation of people with the same experience, but to people who don't have that experience. They have to be given a little bit more detail. And the dialogue in that case certainly help, but the description fills in what why the people are saying what they're saying in that situation. So here I'll go around and let you out because the door handle on that side of the car doesn't work. Hang on.
Yep.
But
Or
that,
like,
that says a lot. That says a lot about the car. It says a lot about the person.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think that again, it's what will be complementary to the overarching narrative and give you insights into each character as well as their own personal situations that they may be in, because that will then elevate the story and enable the reader. It just adds so many layers to the narrative. Again, though, this is like description and dialogue that's complementary to the overarching story. And the reason I keep saying that is, I've seen plenty of works, and I'm sure everyone on this live stream has as well, where, I mean, it's just gorgeous, right? Like whatever is being described or, the dialogue, it's like entertaining. But then like when you're done, you're like, well, what? I don't understand why this is even here. Right. We had a few works in our last acquisition session that my only comment was like, I don't understand what's going on. And like our interns would literally basically come back and say, oh, well, I can explain it to you, right? Like that kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, but what's the whole purpose of this even being here? Like, why are we starting at this point in the story? Why is this happening? And they would just sit there and stare at us like blankly because they didn't know. They just knew that they enjoyed the writing. And they would even say that, like, well, I just know I enjoyed the writing, so that's why I gave it a thumbs up. But yeah, you're right. I don't understand why any of this is going on. So Dr. Diane says, I think you need to finish that. That wasn't enough. We need more. We need more. We also had
skilled reader.
Sorry.
I just went ahead and filled in all the things she likes.
I
mean,
you could do it if you want.
Yeah, you're welcome, Diane.
We actually also we were reached out to. There was one book that was left open from not this acquisition session, but the previous one, and it was one of those that everybody had agreed. Oh my gosh, we have to acquire this, and I kept sending the author notes, and I didn't hear back, and I was like, I figured, well, maybe it got picked up someplace else, and I heard back from his partner, and it turned out he passed away like right after he signed the contract with us. And she had only just gotten into his submittable page and sent me a note saying like he was so like they even have it in his he even mentions in his honorarium, or they even mentioned in his honorarium how excited he was to be published, to have his book finally published specifically with Running Wild. So I was like heartbroken for her because my God, could you imagine, your partner's passed away and this is what you find, and it's like, how do I make this real for him, right? And I was also just honored that we would have the opportunity to publish his work. So I suggested to her that I get I'll be his editor, which was the last email I had sent. Like, I'm more than happy to be your editor. Just please respond.
Yeah.
And that she and I would work together on it and get it over the finish line together. So just an enormous contrast in comparison to the guy. And the guy, by the way, who was like, well, you guys just clearly don't get my writing, kind of, you're all templates. It was one of the ones that we were all maybes on, and only one of our readers said yes because she enjoyed the writing. And just as a hint as to which one it was one that we were all like, well, I love the title. It's hilarious, but I don't, it's a collection of short stories that clearly needs work so that it's actually, gelling. So yeah, that kind of contrast between responses is kind of interesting, I think.
And you really take a chance by adding that in the acceptance letter,
Mm-hmm.
because that could have been a reason to say, well, no, you just don't get it, because we said it's going to take a lot of editing. We're personalizing it. We're telling you, hey, we like it, but it's going to take editing. And then the response could be, well, no, you don't need to edit this because it's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so the template itself is just it comes down to a small press with resources. Of course, we have a template for acceptance, but the personalization and the relationship comes with the editor afterwards. And the author, I think, has to be willing to be a member of that relationship. We don't want you not to be.
Yeah, if
Well,
you're gonna walk at the door, you're gonna be a pain to work with.
Yeah.
Right.
If you think everything needs to be your way, I mean, that's not the point of the editing process. The editing
Right.
process is bring other thoughts and ideas and commentary into the manuscript to make it better.
And honestly, Peter, to your point, so many brilliant authors I've encountered are very upfront about the fact that the editor that they worked with that really broke them for whatever their breakthrough piece was really transformed their writing and just like really taught them a lot about, narrative or story or, craft or what have you. So yeah, absolutely.
I like how organic the process is, because the first draft that I work on of an author's work, and I would give them the second is I get version 1, I give them version 2, and so forth. Is they pick up on parts that I may have glossed over, or let pass, that they'll fix based on the comments that I've given them. It's like, oh, I can fix this here, I can fix this here. So they're growing as authors while they're editing their pieces. So it's not just fix this one point. It's like, this matters throughout the story, so see what else you can do because of it. See what else you can expand and make better because of it. I'm not picking on. I'm not choosing specific instances, but these can play out throughout the novel, throughout your writing.
Well, and it's interesting. So Peter, I think, and Ben, to your point as well. Maybe we don't get it. So then definitely we're not the right press for you, right? Like clearly, maybe there's another publication that will absolutely get it. Every single author of any kind of significance went through a period where they just could not get their stuff picked up, and so maybe we fall into that category, and that's all good. That's why my response is like, okay, well, best of luck, because it's all good. So Diane Schneider says, I like Alan Levy's dedication, who called his friends bluff and said, now you have to buy 100 books. Well, I mean,
and that's exactly what I filled in the block with. I knew that's what she said in that first post. She didn't have to clarify for me. I knew what she meant.
No, you didn't. Stop.
I did. Thank you, Diane.
That is completely not true. So we only have like 15 minutes left. So anyone who's watching, again, if you have any comments, please go ahead, put your comments into the comments section, or questions into the comments section of whatever venue you are watching us. And again, we'll more than happily reply or respond, reiterate rather. Somehow I like our words, but anyway, reiterate your question, and then we'll each take an opportunity to respond to it. So there was something else that came up this week that I thought was really fascinating, which of course now I'm not going to remember because, hey, why do that? So yeah, we had one author who, actually two authors, and I'm piggybacking actually, Ben, on your comment about Ben and Peter, the relationship of the editor to the author, they both came back and said they wanted me to explain what Running Wild's point of view was on the narrative process and what the overarching strategy and concept was going to be in the approach to the work. And I just said, here's a link to my Calendly account. I think we have to talk about this because, again, although all of our editors take a test, so we're all approaching editing from a same or similar means or approach, that doesn't mean that every single one of us is going to come back with the exact same thing, right? It's going to be very, very dependent on who the editor is and your relationship as you build that relationship with the editor. And in part, honestly, that's why I always put out there, if you've got an editor you want to work with, tell me. And I'll approach them first. And what's so funny is the number of times that an author's come back and said, well, how am I supposed to know who the editor is? And I'm thinking, because 90% of the time they're mentioned somewhere in the book. And if you don't know who they are, just tell us the name of the book and the author. And guess what? We'll look it up. I mean, it's not that hard.
And I think that some of that comes down to the author as well. I've edited a novel and a memoir by two different authors, of course, but they're both from New England, and the way they turn a phrase is not the way I would turn a phrase. But it's not on me to say, well, you got to turn it this way because I'm your editor. That's not what I'm there for. It's to pick up on that and their cadence and their use of language and their use of the tools, the use of commas and all the craft things that they're using. It's on me to come up to speed and read it through with their voice in mind. And so that's even though even if we were a cookie cutter set of editors, we're still going to have to adapt to the work, to the books. And we're not a set of cookie cutter editors.
No, not at all.
So first we get grief for not being a template, or for being a template, then we get grief for not being a template. Yeah. We're in the middle. We're in the middle somewhere.
Well, it was. It's interesting because I think some of the comments I've gotten from our editors is how oftentimes we first look for, like, what is the voice? Is this voice complementary to the narrative? And, understanding, so what is a narrative and what is a narrative arc? And is this in support of that story? And, a lot of times we'll reject or decline a story because it's like the author hasn't figured out what their voice is yet, right? They don't necessarily, it'll read like a romance, but this is a thriller. And so, but the contrast doesn't work because, for whatever reasons, right? Like how they're actually leveraging the different tools that are common within a romance. Or just the cadence is so off, right? Like one paragraph is like 3-sentence long sentences, and the next one are like 2-word sentences or 3-word sentences, but there's no actual, it's not like there's a rhythm to it. So, it's really going back to the author and just asking, you may want to do another go around, maybe have a friend read it, right? Maybe read it out loud or take some time away from whatever that narrative is so that when you go back to it, honestly, like when I write in the same world as I've written in previously, I go back and reread what I wrote before so that it reminds me of what is that voice that I used and the voice of the characters so that it actually makes it interesting or it's consistent. And my editors who may or may not be on here, but who would definitely call me out if I did not get it right. I'm just saying. Sorry. So a comment, I found it interesting when you said maybe we don't get it. I've always thought that the best way to expand your horizons is to covet what you don't revere. That's an interesting perspective. I think it's more of if you don't at least understand a nugget of it, then you can't get into it and you can't really partner with the author effectively. And I think that's really it's not that you don't expand your horizons and you don't try new things. It's that oftentimes when someone is sending us something and, you know, the response is, I don't get it, it means it's not cohesive. And we found a lot of, actually, I think there were at least 3 books that were submitted to us where, you know, like the first paragraph, or actually not even the paragraph, the first few sentences was from one point of view. The next sentence was from a completely different point of view. The next sentence, there's no way in hell the character would know that. And then when you start reading the dialogue, it wasn't indicative of that character's age as described, right? Or personality and so on. So it was like the author was still trying to figure out what the story was. So although I do agree, yes, you need to try new things. And, you know, the magic of yes is absolutely right there 100%. But you don't want to, at least I don't think, you shouldn't, if a publisher actively or anybody actively says, I don't get what you're doing, and so we're going to say no, you're not going to chase them around and say yes, if that makes sense.
Well, to your comment about formatting as well a few minutes ago, if the author is describing a funeral scene and they have 1-sentence dialogue and like a 2-sentence paragraph and a 3-sentence dialogue and then a short little paragraph, so it's moving really fast, but the funeral scene is actually very slow, depressing, and sad. But the way the book is formatted, as your eyes keep going from the next line to the next line to the next line, because nothing's slowing you down. They don't know their craft. They don't know what they're trying to accomplish with the story. So that's going to be something that we pass them from saying, you need to do this again because you're not understanding where you're coming from or how you're presenting your story, how you're telling your tale, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does.
And there's layers of not getting it. That we may usually if that language comes out, it's after a conversation with the author, because what we are getting, what we have selected, may not be what the author intended, but we're seeing something else, and then they're coming back and saying, no, it's this, and then the narrative, the discussion is, okay, I can understand what you're saying, and as a reader, I'm seeing this. Let's make those 2 things work together and expand the story. And so it's not just, hey, maybe we don't get it. We may not be getting the author's criticism of a template, but the story itself, there was something about the story that attracted us to it, whether it was the writing or the characters or the setting, just a myriad of things to consider. But that's the fun part of the editing is tapping into the author's vision and seeing it from a different outsider's perspective and still making it work. And say, this is okay. I got you. Let's make it better. Let's make it work.
Yeah, often when I see a lot of repetition in a piece, I'm like, okay, why is this happening? I don't get it. My inclination is to take it all out, but there may be a reason why an author wants to keep it in. Say, no, this has to be here for rhythm. This has to be here for this. Okay, but I've seen it like 50 times. Does it have to be there for rhythm? Right. Can we do something else? And if the author says, no, this is how I structured it because of this and this and this and this, not just, no, it's not my vision, but this is the structure and leads me through it. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, it connects. Let's do it. It might be annoying to readers, but let's do it because, this is really cool. Yeah. Right. So yeah, there are the layers to maybe I don't get it. And it is a cover. Okay, yeah, I've seen this pop up a million times. I've deleted it. You put it back in. Why? Why are
Right.
we doing this?
Yeah.
And if there's like, hey, structurally, I really want this to read like this.
Mhm.
Because this is how I planned it. And they explain it from on page 39 and this, and then the characters going through this and this and this. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, then, I mean, I remember I took one dance composition class when I was in college. And our professor was there in a room full of other dancers. Everybody was doing their thing
Mhm.
with their choreography. And this one woman did the same motion over and over and over again to the music. It was beautiful. And the professor stood back and said, okay, obviously I was like, you're doing that over and over and over again. And she was like, but that was the purpose. It was for us to focus in on that moment and to be annoyed. That was the purpose. So sometimes that is the purpose, to be annoyed, to annoy the reader. I mean, it doesn't always work. It doesn't always fly, but sometimes within the structure, it might.
Mhm. Yeah, and back to the whole understand your why, right?
Mhm.
Like there
Exactly.
may actually be a purpose behind it, and if it's not coming through, if it's not quite effective, I mean that's really in my mind the editor's function is to help the author identify, well, how can we make this effective, right? Like
Mhm.
the one work that I described that we had accepted and then he declined, in the acquisition session, we all said the same thing. There's almost he positioned it as a story collection, but it wasn't quite a collection because the stories weren't related to each other.
Mm.
And it was obvious that he needed to write a couple of more stories to create that bridge. So it was actually a collection of stories versus I'm just going to regurgitate a bunch of stories that I've already published and a few that I just wrote 5 minutes ago, right? That's, you know, that's great for you and your cousins. Like, cool, go for it, right? I'm sure your mom will be completely in love when she reads it, but it's probably won't work effectively for a reader, because even if it's not positioned as a cohesive collection, the reality is that if you're going to read an author with whom you're a fan, it's highly unlikely that that collection is going to be so all over the place in terms of type of genre and so on that you'll just be like, why am I reading this? I don't get it. So, wow. Okay, we only have like 2-3 minutes left. Is there anything else you guys want to chime in on?
I'm good.
All right. Well, for anyone who's watching, even if you're watching a recording, again, please feel free, go into the comment section of whatever venue you're watching this, and we will more than happily go back and respond to your question in a future iteration. And again, thank you so much for actually really interesting and curious commentary.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. Greatly
Yeah.
appreciated. And don't forget, we will be here next week on the 13th from 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. Really looking forward to seeing you guys. And as always, it is just a complete honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to engage with you. So come, invite your friends. Tell them how fabulous Peter, Cecilia, and Ben are. And, and maybe I'll actually respond to something directly instead of going all esoteric on you, but probably not. So cool. All right. Well, I guess with that, thank you everyone. Have a fabulous week and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.